It's been almost 20 years since Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, causing catastrophic damage across New Orleans, Mississippi, Louisiana, and many more areas, killing hundreds of people in its path. A new National Geographic docuseries titled Hurricane Katrina: Race Against Time takes viewers through the tragedy and the lasting impact. Academy Award nominated filmmaker and producer Tracy Curry is joining us now to tell us more. Tracy, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us about the process of creating this docuseries?
Absolutely. So this is a 5-part documentary series that is exploring Hurricane Katrina 20 years later. And so it was very important for us that we center the stories and experiences of the people of New Orleans who lived through this, who experienced it, and who really are living with the reverberations of Katrina 20 years later in their lives to this day. And so what we set out to do was to gather as many pieces of the experience that those people in New Orleans had during Katrina as possible to try to begin to assemble something that felt like a whole story. One of the things we understood early on is that Katrina is what you saw, where you were, and what you experienced. And so we set about finding as many people who had those various experiences, whether you were in the Superdome, the convention center, on the highway, where you were first responder. And then we began the process of curating hundreds of hours of archival footage to really bring the experiences of those people to life.
I watched the trailer and it was just chilling. Why was it so important for you to make sure that people watch this 20 years after this event?
Yeah, I think there's a way that Katrina sort of lives in our memory as this storm, and it was sort of this natural disaster. But in fact, a lot of what Katrina was about and a lot of the harm that really was experienced by the people in the city were man-made causes. And so I think that 20 years later, there's a sort of perspective that maybe we didn't quite understand, or that doesn't quite live as clearly in our memory about all of the man-made reasons why Katrina was so resonant and continues to be so resonant 20 years later.
And I know there are many personal testimonies that were part of this docuseries. Are there any that stood out to you the most?
Oh gosh, I think every single one of the people that we spoke to had a story that was just harrowing of this experience, whether it was a first responder who just, after all communications had failed, just got out there and began saving as many lives as possible, whether it was a person who was trapped in their attic with really no hope of rescue because, again, all communications had failed, whether it was a person living in the really dehumanizing conditions of the Superdome and the convention center. I don't think there was a single person in this series that didn't have a story that was sort of deeply moving and disturbing in terms of what they had to live through, but also very inspirational in terms of the way that people really rose to the occasion and did the best that they could to help themselves and others survive this.
This must have been a very emotional process for you creating this docuseries.
Yeah, it's interesting. I get sort of asked the question a lot about sort of my feelings about it. And it was certainly very difficult to both sit with the people who survived Katrina and the footage, not just for me, but the entire team of people that worked on this. But it's never far from my mind that this was and continues to be a profoundly traumatic experience for the people who lived it. And so I sort of feel like, as difficult as it was for me, if they could have the courage and the grace to share and relive this experience so that the truth of what happened might be known, the very least I could do is sort of sit with it in their feelings. And it feels appropriate to me that you leave this, that I leave this, that all of the viewers leave this feeling slightly unsettled about what happened in New Orleans.
And that was my next question, is what message do you want viewers to take away from this docuseries?
Yeah, well, we really set out not to just sort of tell this sort of historic story and kind of excavate this thing from the past and dust it off and show people, but we really set out to tell the story in a way that lets people understand that Katrina still has things to teach us 20 years later in terms of surviving these catastrophic weather-related disasters, towards centering the humanity of people and how we respond to those things, and also really correcting some of the erroneous narratives that were out there about the people of New Orleans and how they comported themselves during Katrina. So my hope is that the series really sort of is in conversation with where we find ourselves today, and people find it instructive and useful for our current moment moving forward.
And how can people see this?
Yes, so our premiere is this Sunday on National Geographic, where you can watch the first 2 of the 5 episodes, and then the following day, all 5 episodes will be streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
All right, Tracy Curry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.